In today's video, we're going to learn the type of weld you see here on this model of the Swordfish 2 I'm working on. I'll show you two of my favorite techniques for blending objects together in Moi. The first being a method using a simple fillet, and the second using the Moi blend command. We're going to cover a lot, so without further ado, let's get to modeling. Okay, here we are in a blank Moi file. Now, I'm going to do a quick overview of how to perform operations in Moi. If you have experience already doing that, then feel free to skip using the chapters. But if you're new to the program or just need a refresher, I will show you how to run commands. So I'm in my 3D viewport here. I'm going to go to draw solid. I'm going to put down a cylinder. So I click on cylinder. And now I have my shape. So there are a couple main ways of running commands in Moi. One is through keyboard shortcuts, and the other option is through actually hitting the buttons here on the sidebar. Now I recommend setting up keyboard shortcuts so that your modeling is more efficient. And the way the commands work, as you saw, I put down a solid already. But basically you invoke the command either through a keyboard shortcut or hitting the button, and then there's usually a prompt depending on the command that will show up here on the top right with some kind of instruction for you to perform. So for example, if I want to fillet the edges here, let's say the top and bottom, what I have to do is select my object. Then I'm going to run the fillet command. For me, I've already set that up, and for my setup, it's the F key. So we'll press that, and you'll see that some options come up here. Now, Moi is prompting us to give a radius, so how big we want the fillet to be. So we have a couple options here. We can pick an exact value, for example. I'm going to put 0.2 meters here, and then hit enter. And now you'll see that change take place on the object. And when we're done, we can hit done. I am going to undo, and I want to show you the other way of committing this change. So I will hit undo. I've already got my object selected again, and I will hit my F key for my fillet command. So because we already performed the operation, we see that fillet already come up with this value, but we can change the value by clicking on the viewport. We can use some kind of axes. You can see this on Y up here in the overlay, or we can use the object itself, this straight line here, and actually click and drag so that we get some value. So we'll click here, and now you can see up here the radius change depending on how big I want that fillet to be. So that's another option for performing this operation. So I'm going to pick something a little bit bigger, let's say 0.42 here. I'm going to click, and now I see that value here. And instead of hitting done, the other thing we can do is click the right mouse button to commit or change. So now you see the operation is committed and finalized, and the prompt goes away. Now we can get to the two techniques for blending objects together. So I deleted my object, and we're going to start with a curve. So I'm going to my right view, and I am going to put down a freeform curve, and I will make a vase type shape. So I've got my handy curve here, and I will put this curve down. Now the next thing I want to do is revolve this curve around so that we get that vase shape. So I will run my revolve command. Moi is prompting me to pick an axis. I will leave cap ends checked. And now we get the shape. So once we have our shape down, we can click on our first curve. It's still there, and we can show points. So I want to make this a little flatter so you can see that our points for that curve that we put down come up. I will select these top two, and I am going to just drag them down to make this a little flatter. Okay, now I will hide the show points. And we won't need this curve anymore, so I will also hide the curve itself. Keyboard shortcut that I have set up for that is H, so now we have hidden it. I'm going back to 3D view. I want to actually have this face us, so I'm going to select the object in the top view and rotate it 180 degrees, so now it's facing towards us. The next thing I want to do is put down a circle that we can extrude. I'm going to go to my right view again, click on circle. I'm going to do it about here and put down a circle right there. So now we see it here. I'm going to hit extrude. And I want this to be big enough that it's gonna go over the sides of this object. I'm going to next, I've committed my extrude. So the next step I'm gonna do is move it towards the center. And I will pick this point and line it up. So now we have our two objects that are forming this shape. So the next step is I want to join the two objects so that they are one solid. So to select objects, we can do multiple things. We can select them one by one, one after the other, or we can click drag on our viewport, and any part that we encompass over the shapes, after we click drag, it will select those objects. So now we have both of them selected. The next thing I want to do is Boolean union both of them together. So we'll do that. Boolean union. And now we have one solid object. And the way we can confirm that, when we click on something, we see it highlighted all together, and up here on the top right, Moi lets us know that we in fact have a solid object. It says solid. So I'm going to now go into my 3D viewport, select my solid. I'm going to Control C, Control V to paste. So that we can proceed with our blending techniques. First thing I want to do real quick is hide this little circle for our curve. So that is out of the way. And now the first technique is very simple. We have our object. We want to select these edges where we have performed this Boolean union where the two objects met. And so we click on our object, and now we can click and select any of the edges of the object. So we want to select those curves where our shapes meet, and we simply perform the fillet. So I will hit F for our fillet. We still have that value from our overview. You can see it here, 0.42, but I want this to be a bit bigger. I'm going to click and drag in our viewport. You can see that I selected a value that was too big, so the operation failed. You can see it says calculation failed. So I'm going to pick something smaller. I'm going to click once there and click here, and there we go. Now we have this nice variable blend, and you can see why it failed, because our value was bigger than this edge. So again, we can set a more precise value. Let's say I want 3 meters exact, so I will do 3.0. Hit enter. That looks nice. So now I want to commit this and hit done. I'm going to right click so that our operation is now final. And here we have our blend. Quick and easy fillet blend. We have our solid. I'm going to color this so we can see it better. And here is the first technique. So now for our second technique, we have our solid object. What we want to do is we're going to target these edges where the shapes meet again. But what we want to do is actually cut out a shape. I'm going to create a noodle based on these curves. And then imagine this shape being made out of paper. So we're going to cut out the space created by the noodle. So in order to do that, what we want to do is put down a little circle that we want to actually revolve around this curve via the sweep command so that we get a noodle shape. And I will show you how that looks like. So I'm going to go to our top view. I'm just going to put the circle down here next to it. And don't worry about the exact value of the circle. This will be up to you for how big you want the noodle to be. So I'm going to pick something about there. And now we have this beside the object. Because the next thing we want to do is sweep this circle around this curve. So what we want to do is, in order to perform that operation, we select our circle, our object that we want to sweep. We hit sweep. Then we need to select rails. So we want to do this one by one. So now I select the object, and then now I can select that curve inside the object. We've selected our rails. We only need the one. Then I will right click to confirm, or you can click done. And now we get our noodle shape. So Moi has prompted us again, and this is fine. We can experiment with these if you want, but I'm gonna hit done because I like the shape of this noodle that was created now. So I'm just gonna click to deselect. I'm gonna select my noodle. And instead of doing this operation again, we could if we wanted to, but the other option that we have is to mirror this. So I'm going to go to my top view. I have it selected. I'm gonna hit my mirror command and mirror it across our axis. It's a little bit easier, and you can see why having your keyboard commands set up makes modeling a lot easier. So instead of running that whole command, I just mirror it, and now we have two noodles on each side. I'm going to hide this curve. We don't need it anymore. And so the next thing we want to do is actually cut out that shape. Now, an important thing to note here is that right now we have a solid. When we joined the object together, it gave us that solid. We don't want to use a solid actually, because if we perform a Boolean difference operation, we are going to get a chunk cut out of the shape, and that is actually not what we want. And I can show you that effect. So I have my object selected. I am going to invoke the Boolean difference. Moi is asking now to select the objects to subtract. I am going to pick my noodles. For now, I'm going to leave this unchecked. I'm not going to keep the objects. Now I will right click or hit done. And we will see our noodles cut out a chunk out of the solid. Now this is a cool effect, and if we wanted to, we could keep this and then fillet the edges here. But that's not exactly what we want. We want to cut out the space of the surface. Right now, this object is solid, so we took out a chunk. I'm going to undo this operation because what we want is for the inside of our original shape to be hollow In order to do that, we can simply select our object, then select this face. We could really do this with any of these faces. But we want to delete it because now we have, instead of a solid, a hollow object, and we can see inside of it. So that's the effect we want. We want this to be as if this was made out of paper, because if it was paper, it wouldn't be a solid. And so now we can perform the same operation, and it's great that Moi allows us to do the Boolean difference, except now on a non-solid surface using our noodles. So we will do the same thing. We will select our object, invoke Boolean difference. Now, again, Moi is asking us to select our objects to subtract. I will select our noodles. In this case, I want to keep them just for giggles and grins. So we check this, and now we hit done. And so now I'm going to deselect. We can see inside our noodles are still separate. I'm going to select them and put them in their own group. So in order to do that, we have them selected. We click up here where it says unnamed. We will get an edit named object prompt, and I'm just going to call it noodles. So now you can see that they get put in their own group. And so now I'm just going to color them magenta. So here they are. We can see them again through our surface, because now we can select them. We can either select the objects individually, or we can click up here to select both of them, and I'm just going to hide them. So now we can see our surface here got cut. So now we have three surfaces, this one being hollow. Because the next thing we want to do is use the blend command to blend these shapes together. And the way that the blend command works is we can select a surface and then pick the edge of a surface to blend together with another edge of another surface. So we have this one selected, we can hit blend. Now select curves or edges to blend. So we will select this one, the next one, and select our actual edges from those two objects. And now I'm going to hit right click to be done with the selection. And now this is where the magic happens. We have a nice blend. Our operation is still not done, because you can see Moi is giving us another prompt to dial in the settings for this operation. We get two continuity algorithms that we can select from. I like this tangent G1 one. You can see we have this bulge setting, and this is a setting that we can tweak. So I'm going to go to our top view so we can see the actual curvature. This is based on the tangent. So we can lower this. If we set this to below 1, we get this more direct curvature. And you can see it still has a curvature, but it's more direct between the 2 points. Or if we adjust it higher than 1, we get this sharper edge that goes in. And you can see it's happening equally on both sides. So we get this nice effect. So this is up to you. I'm going to set this back to 1 because I like the default setting here. I think it looks nice. And then I will hit done. So I will right click to finish the operation. And so now we can do the same thing. We can either do the blend again across the two surfaces, but because our object is the same across this axis, I am going to select our blended object, which is this surface here. Going back to this view, you can see now we have this nice blend. And I will mirror it across this axis. So now we have both sides done. Go back to my 3D viewport. I'm going to select both and color them again so you can see the nice blended shapes. Now, the next step I want to do is turn this whole setup into one solid object. Right now, they are individual surfaces. If I just click on this and raise it, you can see those little ribbons. But what I can do is I need to close off this surface, which is open right now, again, from being hollow, from removing the face. So I will click on the object, I will click on this edge, and now I will hit the planar command, and that will give us this face of this circle. But you can see it's an individual surface. So now we have two objects technically. And so the next step we want to do is I'm gonna click drag from the side here, from the right, so that I have my selection of all 6 objects, and then I'm going to hit the join command. And so now that joins all our surfaces and we have a solid object. Again, we can confirm with Moi, it's telling us that now we have one solid object. So the next thing I want to do real quick is to make this a little nicer. I am going to click all the edges. Like so, and then do a fillet. And that's a little bit too big. It still has this value from before, but I'm gonna go and do, let's say 0.4. And now we have some nice blends. The first one, again, you can see it's this variable blend with a simple fillet command. And then in this technique, we get a more uniform blend, but one that gave us a little bit more control over the curvature. So there we are, 2 techniques for blending objects together in Moi. Hopefully you learned something new and you picked up some new tools that you can add to your modeling arsenal. I use these very same techniques in modeling the Swordfish 2 from Cowboy Bebop. You can see the model here where I used it on the undercarriage on this gun part. I'll be posting progress on this project and the model itself on my Patreon, so keep an eye out for that. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I will catch you guys next time. Bye.